Naruto, the ninja who picks up ultimate powers. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 21. The next day, in the morning, Natsuki, who came to the ninja school, met Hinata at the school gate. Walk into the classroom. The whole class had already arrived, and no one was surprised to see Natsuki and Hinata appear. For the state of the two, not many people feel new anymore. This is a recognized pair. Greeting the familiar crowd, Natsuki and Hinata sat down in their places. Of course, the time of the graduation examination has been announced early in the morning, so the whole class today is here for the last exam. I'm finally graduating. Natsuki-kun. Sitting next to Natsuki, Hinata, a rare person, took the initiative to speak. I'm looking forward to it. Hearing this, reaching out and rubbing Hinata's little head, Natsuki said with a smile, I'm looking forward to it too. After graduation, I will use the fastest speed to promote to Shainin, and then go to see your father, don't worry. Shoo. Hinata's little face was red, and he lowered his head, not daring to look at Natsuki, but just nodded gently. Well, I'll work hard too. Reaching out and rubbing Hinata's little head, Natsuki said with a serious face, then we will make an agreement. Hearing this, although Hinata was shy, he still looked at Natsuki seriously and nodded vigorously. Well, it's agreed. This is still the first time that the two of them have agreed on one thing. Hinata's heart is very happy. For a while, the topic of the two opened, thinking about the future. Inside the class, everyone else looked in the direction of Hinata and Natsuki from time to time. Among the three of Inoka, the only girl, Yamanaka Ino saw the pink atmosphere of the two, and couldn't help but say speechlessly, those two people, they've been like this for 6 years, aren't they tired? Hearing Yamanaka Ino's complaint, Nara Shikamaru gave her a blank look. Don't you too? Turning his head fiercely, Yamanaka Ino looked at Nara Shikamaru. Clam? You repeat. Nara Shikamaru, who was stared at like this and suffered from the tyranny of his murderous mother at home since he was a child, shrunk his neck. Ahem, nothing. Good men don't fight with women, especially a woman of the tigress level. Soon, the assessment began. As Natsuki remembered, the test was a doppelganger. No matter which one is good, for Natsuki, it is all hand-to-hand, and Hinata will not have a problem. To be precise, no one in the class will have a problem except Naruto Uzumaki, who is very distressed about the doppelganger because of the nine-tailed chakra interference. It's just that something will happen tonight. The theft of the Book of Seals. As the protagonist of the incident, Naruto Uzumaki will get a compensation from the 3 generations of Hokage tonight, the forbidden art of multiple shadow avatars. This is also Naruto Uzumaki's first plug-in. This was his chance, so in this case, even if the relationship between Natsuki and Naruto Uzumaki was still good, he would not care about little yellow hair, let alone interfere in this matter. The Book of Seals, is it so easy to steal? Joke. As the first place in the class, the first to take the exam was Natsuki. After passing with a full score, Natsuki got his brace, and then went outside the classroom and waited for Hinata. Hinata's grade, in the class, was in 6th place. So soon, Hinata also came out with a brace. Natsuki-kun. Holding the brace, Hinata came to Natsuki's side and spoke. I passed, smiled and nodded, and a smile appeared on Natsuki's face. I know Hinata won't be unsuccessful. With that, Natsuki took Hinata and walked towards the outside of the school. Hinata also followed. After the two strolled around the village a little, Hinata went back. Natsuki did not go to training either, but went home. The main thing is not much mood. Natsuki was very unsure about the division of classes. Because he's the extra one, there was some helplessness. Natsuki held his head and spoke. It can only be seen tomorrow, how the 3 generations of Hokage are arranged. Natsuki was distressed. The 3 generations of Hokage also had some hesitation. What he hesitated about was the way he cultivated Natsuki. How can such a genius not be cultivated well? But now in the elite class, there is such a genius as Xiaomu. It is difficult to arrange. 2 bad teammates can't keep up with Natsuki's growth. But better teammates, at the beginning, are almost certain, and it is not good to replace anyone. In the end, the 3 generations of Hokage still made up their minds, and crossed out Natsuki's name from the classification list. Such words. A satisfied smile appeared on the face of the 3rd generation Hokage, and he spoke. For this child, it is the best arrangement. The next day, in the morning, Natsuki got up early. Dressed in the power suit prepared by his mother, he tied the ninja brace to his arm and carried a Naota knife around his waist. Image above, full marks. Standing next to Natsuki, her mother looked at Natsuki's eyes and was full of emotion. Friend, finally become a ninja. With a smile on his face, Natsuki nodded and said, Mom. In the future, I will earn money to support my family. After 6 years, my mother is older, although she is only 12 years old, but since she has become a ninja, Natsuki has no problem making money to support the family. Of course, she does not want her mother to work harder. For Natsuki's request, the mother nodded. Okay, I'll listen to you. She is a standard housewife, a gentlewoman, and when her son grows up, he is also willing to listen to Natsuki. After a little tidying up, Natsuki changed into his shoes. I'm out. The mother looked at Natsuki and spoke. Friend, pay attention to safety. Waving his hand without looking back, Natsuki spoke. Don't worry. I'm very powerful. It didn't take much time for Natsuki to arrive at the door of the ninja school. Not surprisingly, Hinata was there waiting for his arrival. Natsuki waved his hand, and just walked up to Hinata and said hello. Swish. A dark part appeared directly in front of Natsuki and Hinata. This dark eye, looking at Natsuki through the mask, directly opened his mouth to confirm. Natsuki friend? A hint of doubt appeared on his face, and Natsuki nodded directly. I am. Nodded, this dark part directly spoke. Naruto-sama wants to see you now. Please rush to the Hokage's office, within 10 minutes. Swish. After speaking, the figure of the dark part had already left the door of the school. Natsuki, who was thoughtful, turned his head to look at Hinata beside him. Hinata, you go to the classroom, I'm busy, come back to you. If I don't come, then we'll meet at the training ground. Hearing this, Hinata nodded and said, well, Natsuki-kun, I'll wait for you. Reaching out and rubbing Hinata's hair, Natsuki raised his hand and made a print. Swish. The figure disappeared directly, leaving a leaf on the scene. Konoha is unique to the instantaneous technique, the leaf instantaneous technique. Episode 22. 3 minutes later, Natsuki arrived outside the door of Hokage's office. Bang bang. Knocking on the door, Natsuki stood in the doorway, waiting for the 3 generations of Hokage to let him in. This time the 3 generations of Hokage asked him to come over, and Natsuki probably knew the reason. Split shifts. If he came here alone, 9 times out of 10, he would be treated as a class alone. It doesn't matter. If you can be in the same class as Hinata, it is naturally the best, and if you can't, then there is no need to force it. He is a class alone and is able to advance his ninja rank as quickly as possible. And the 3 generations of Hokage do this. How to say that they must also open a back door for him. Pick up advanced tasks. Make hay. Xiaomu needs money very much. Firstly, he wants to make his mother work harder, and secondly, he wants to save money to marry his daughter-in-law. Hinata, as the eldest lady of the Hyuga clan, married him, and she could not be wronged by her. No matter what, the arrangement of being alone is still in line with what Natsuki thinks in his heart. Come in. The voice of 3 generations of Hokage came from inside, and the old man was very old. After hearing it, Natsuki directly pushed open the door and walked in. Excuse me. Yikes. As soon as he walked in, many eyes fell on Xiaomu's body. With a condensation of his heart, Xiaomu's face tightened slightly, and then he looked at everyone in the office. Kakashi Kiki, Sarutobi Asuma, Sunset Red, and other shinobi were all standing in the office, and at this moment, one by one, their eyes fell on Natsuki's body, conveying curiosity, scrutiny, and kindness. After looking at it for a moment, Natsuki's gaze fell on the 3 generations of Hokage behind the desk. Naruto-sama, I'm coming. Call. Taking a puff of his cigarette, the 3 generations of Hokage looked at Natsuki with a kind smile on his face. Friend, you wait for a while, I'll wait a bit, and then talk about your business. Hearing the words of the 3 generations of Hokage, Natsuki stood in the corner to the side, looking at the many shinobi present. These upper patience is the next. The guidance of the elite class is upper patience. Looking at the past one by one, Natsuki silently calculated the gap between himself and these upper shinobi. Except for a 5-5, Kiki Kakashi, he didn't have much certainty. The rest, Natsuki thinks to himself, will not be weaker than them. Shoo. Detect a purple card dropped within 100 meters of the host. Is it picked up? With his eyes lit up, Natsuki suddenly saw a purple card at Kakashi's feet. Kakashi is atmospheric. In Xiaomu's heart, he spoke. Pick. Successfully picked up, obtained the purple ninjutsu ratchet card, which has been stored. Good stuff. Xiaomu's thunder is really pitiful, but on the other hand, the power of thunder is still very terrifying. Ratchet came at the right time. After a while, he talked to Kakashi and forced him to use Ratchet a few times, and then slowly showed Ratchet himself little by little. This is it, Guangjing University has arrived. And then this ninjutsu, that's his too. Perfect plan too. Shoo. Purple cards have been detected to have fallen within 100 meters of the host. Is it picked up? The sound of the system sounded again, making Natsuki froze for a moment. Pick. Successfully picked, obtained the purple earth attribute chakra nature, has been stored. Double cannon. Natsuki's gaze fell on an unknown Shainin. The earth attribute chakra nature that fell out of him was gone. In this way, among the 5 element chakra attributes, Xiaomu, who lacks the earth attribute, can be regarded as completing his 5 element chakra attributes. In a short while, I got 2 purple cards. What a harvest. After dropping these 2 cards, Natsuki's gaze was extremely fiery towards Shainin, who was present. One person drops 1, his strength has absolutely skyrocketed. It's just a pity that Natsuki thinks too well. After that, no cards were dropped again. Soon, the upper shinobu who was present all got the list of their own classes here in the 3rd generation of Hokage, and then left the office one after another. All of them, including Kakashi, left the office. At this time, the gaze of the 3 generations of Hokage fell on Natsuki's body. Friend, I've been waiting for a long time. Stepping forward and standing in front of the 3 generations of Hokage, Natsuki spoke. Nope. I don't have a problem. Nodding with a smile, the 3 generations of Hokage looked Natsuki up and down, and said with satisfaction, Very spiritual, you and Yudo, look alike. Natsuki Yudo, the name of his deceased father. Hearing the words of the 3 generations of Hokage, Natsuki smiled and did not answer this word. It's really a dead ghost old bean who died too early. His concept of father is really not strong. After taking a puff of cigarette and swallowing clouds for a while, the 3rd generation of Hokage looked at Natsuki and spoke. Have you learned about the division of classes? Hearing this, Natsuki nodded. Understood. The third Hokage looked at Natsuki and spoke. Then I'll say it bluntly, your talent is undoubtedly the top, so for your arrangement, in fact, I am very distressed, and there are two choices for you in the end. The first is to become a dark part. Dark part? That place is not a good place. In his heart, Natsuki instantly ruled out this choice, because becoming a dark part marked that he was different from the normal ninja arrangement, and he would lack a lot of time to spend with his mother and Hinata. With this alone, Natsuki doesn't want to become a dark part. And the dark part is doing dirty work, the most dangerous work. This does not suit his character. Naruto-sama, what about the second option? Natsuki's gaze looked at the three generations of Hokage and asked, smiling. For Natsuki to have such a question, the three generations of Hokage are not surprised. The second option is to take on tasks in a special class of your own, like everyone else, and then increase the ninja level to become a dazzling talent in Konoha. After a pause, the three generations of Hokage took a puff of their cigarette and continued. But in this way, you are likely to be focused on by the enemy or assassinated by the enemy when performing the mission. Without thinking, Natsuki said directly, I choose the second one. The third Hokage smiled and nodded, looking at Natsuki. Well, got it. Can you tell me why? Friend, Natsuki was stunned for a moment, and said with an embarrassed smile on his face, I want to spend more time with my mother and Hinata. This is the real reason. So when Natsuki said, the sincerity in his tone could be felt by anyone. The eyes of the three generations of Hokage suddenly became much kinder, and they also had some smiles. What a youth. After sighing, the three generations of Hokage's face turned stunned. That friend, you will become a special class yourself, and from today onwards, you will carry out the mission. With a slight bow, Natsuki replied, yes. Episode 23, Training Ground Number 3, Natsuki stood on a bridge, quietly waiting. Since it was determined that Natsuki himself existed as a special class, he naturally needed a guide to be Shinobi. Now he is here waiting for his guidance to come to Shinobu. It is said that it is to guide Shainin, but Natsuki also knows that it is only in a short period of time. After taking him to clarify the task flow and see the blood, it is enough. As for teaching him something, I'm afraid the other party's strength is not enough. Just when Natsuki was bored, swish, a sound of breaking wind sounded, and immediately after, a ninja wearing a ninja vest appeared next to Natsuki. The moment he saw the other party, Xiaomu was stunned for a moment, and then there was a smile on his face. Hello, it's a woman. The chakra on her body made Natsuki recall slightly, and it was confirmed. It was the dark part of Konoha that informed him this morning. Although she is a woman, since the other party can become a superior ninja, it proves that the strength is still good. In fact, it is very easy to identify the level of a ninja. Shinobu is a free costume. Although both are vests, there are some differences. And the chain armor of the elite upper ninja level, there are some differences. If you don't distinguish it in detail, you can't tell it at all. But as long as it is familiar enough, it can be seen at a glance. Hello, I'm your guide Shainin, Shien. Hearing this name, Natsuki was a little familiar, but then remembered. This is the lover who is particularly patient and has a moonlight wind. It's an 80-year-old beauty, but it's not really very good. Shinobu Tsujetsu. Xiaomu looked at Yushien with a straight face, and spoke. Are you going to start your mission today? Shaking his head, Yushien looked at Xiaomu and said with a smile, before performing a mission, you need to understand your strength. Hearing this, Natsuki looked at Yushien. Does Shinobu want to fight me? Eager to try, Natsuki had never fought with Kami Shinobu before, and of course he was quite looking forward to it. Feeling Xiaomu's fighting intent, Yuueshi shook his head helplessly and spoke. No. Naruto-sama said that your strength may be even stronger than mine, so the person who fights you is not me. Looking at Yushien suspiciously, Xiaomu asked, and who is my opponent? Boom. A cloud of white smoke exploded on the bridge, holding Kakashi, who was intimate with heaven, and with one hand in his pocket, appeared next to the two. Yo. Looking at the two, Kakashi opened his mouth to say hello and said, hello. As he spoke, Kakashi's gaze fell on Natsuki's body. This is Natsuki-kun. Yushien nodded and spoke. Kakashi-senpai, he is the newcomer to my special guidance this time, Natsuki friend. Turning to face Natsuki, Yushien spoke. Natsuki-kun, this is. Hearing this, Natsuki's eyes looked at Kakashi and said with trembling intent. Kiki Kakashi, a famous Kami Shinobu in the village, Konoha technician Kakashi. I know. Looking at Kakashi with burning eyes, Natsuki asked. Shinobu Atsuki, my opponent, is it Kakashi Shinobu? Xiaomu's words made Yushien smile and nodded. The one who tests your strength is Kakashi-senpai. I specially invited it, Natsuki-kun, take advantage of the opportunity. Hearing this, Natsuki nodded and said, I will. Kakashi Shinobu, please advise. Syllable. After closing the book in his hand and putting it away, Kakashi looked at Natsuki. Natsuki-kun, please advise more. Call. An invisible momentum collided. The atmosphere on the bridge instantly froze. Yuzuki Shien's face was stunned, and he looked at Kakashi and Natsuki with solemn eyes. Her nerves instantly tightened. The two of them are so powerful, it's just an exchange of momentum. It's so terrifying. Even with me, I felt extreme depression. The next moment, yikes. Two violent winds blew on the bridge, and the figures of Natsuki and Kakashi instantly disappeared on the bridge. Did you do it? Yushien's gaze was solemn and looked to the side. It feels like a close battle. Boom. Two fists, one big and one small, collided together. Bang! The furious power collided, and Natsuki's figure quickly retreated, looking at Kakashi on the opposite side with a serious face. Worthy of being a famous powerhouse. So powerful. Staring at Natsuki, Kakashi's face was equally serious. This little ghost, and the other newcomers, are not at all a level. At this time, Natsuki's hands jerked up, and in an instant, he froze. Fire dragon, flame bomb. Airplanes. Bang! A terrifying fire dragon spewed out from his mouth, directly towards Kakashi's furious bombardment. The seal is so fast. Almost in the blink of an eye, the seal was completed, and Kakashi was directly shocked. But the elite upper shinobi, that is, the elite upper shinobi, almost the next moment, Kakashi reacted, and his hands were stamped on the ground. Tudu until you wall. A wall of dogs' heads stood in front of Kakashi. The fire dragon instantly hit the dog's head wall. Bang! A furious explosion that turned everything upside down. Zheng! At this moment, Natsuki's figure rushed directly into the explosion, holding a Naota knife, and his eyes locked on Kakashi behind the blown wall. Zheng! The sword flashed, and Naota slashed directly through Kakashi's body. Boom! A cloud of white smoke exploded, and a substitute wood was split in half by Xiaomu's knife. Swish! At the same time, Kakashi's figure instantly appeared behind Natsuki, holding Kumu in his hand, directly on Natsuki's neck. You're in a hurry, Natsuki-kun, Kakashi said with a smile on his face. Held by the neck of Kuwu, a smile appeared on Natsuki's face. That's not certain. Kakashi frowned. Bang! At this moment, Natsuki's bursting voice came. Fire escape, how fireball technique. Turning his head when he heard the sound, Kakashi saw a huge fireball with a diameter of 5 or 6 meters, speeding towards him. Seeing this fireball coming, Kakashi's face was solemn. That's not good. Syllable. At this moment, Natsuki's figure turned sharply and grabbed Kakashi's arm. Not afraid of this big fireball in the slightest, Natsuki had a smile on his face. Kakashi Shinobu, let's feel the blood of youth together. Duh. Bang! With a loud bang, a terrifying explosion sounded, and the aftermath of the explosion directly destroyed the surrounding trees and shrubs. When I saw it again, only an incomparably huge pit was left. It's full of charred dirt. Episode 24. In the third training ground, among the dense foliage of a large tree, on Kakashi's forehead, a trace of cold sweat flowed. Shoo! It's really decisive. Fortunately, the shadow avatar used, otherwise, the trick just now would not be so easy to take. Swish! At this moment, several kunai shots shot directly at Kakashi. Was it discovered? With a pale face, Kakashi let out a low groan. Swish! The figure moved, and the whole person directly left the place in an instant. Oops! Bang! The 3 kunai were inserted into the tree, and immediately after, the detonation talisman carried by Kuwu burned to the end and exploded directly. This big tree was directly blown off by 3 detonation charms. Natsuki's figure was standing upside down on another tall tree, with a serious look on his face, holding a naotai knife upside down in his right hand, and his gaze directly locked on Kakashi, who had shifted his position. Kakashi Shinobu, when will you be able to tell the winner from the loser if you hide like this? Natsuki raised the Naota knife in his hand, looked at Kakashi, who was standing on another large tree again, and spoke. Stop running away. Let's fight the winner. I'm going on a date with Hinata later. Hearing Natsuki's words, Kakashi's face darkened. The current newcomer is really uncute. Don't you know to respect your predecessors? Smiled, Natsuki's body, the huge chakra condensed, with a trace of thunder. Kakashi Shinobu, I'm going out to go out and go all out. Moisture. The moment the words fell, the thunder and lightning on Natsuki's body flashed. Lay down lay, instantaneous technique. Sting. Like a rushing thunder, Natsuki's figure instantly killed in front of Kakashi, and above the naotai knife in his hand, there was a rushing thunder chakra, and the thunder and lightning that erupted from it were extraordinary. A blue light flashed in Natsuki's eyes. One knife flow, pull the knife and chop. Zheng. The sound of the knife groan sounded, and Xiaomu directly slashed out, like a thunderous momentum. At the moment of the electric flint, Kakashi suddenly raised a kunai, and there was also a gathering of thunder chakra on it. Boom! Naotai Dao and Kuwu collided, and suddenly burst into a burst of fire, was blocked by Kakashi, and Natsuki did not have any accidents. His body spun in the air, and thunder chakra covered his legs, and he directly kicked out towards Kakashi. Boom! Kakashi raised his hand to block Natsuki's whip leg, and the figures of the two instantly separated in the air. While separating, Natsuki and Kakashi quickly sealed at the same time. Kakashi's hands flashed. Fire escape, how fireball technique. Bear. A huge fireball flew directly towards Natsuki. Without any hesitation, Natsuki's hands instantly froze. Water dragon technique. Crash. A water dragon formed out of thin air and instantly pounced on the how fireball art. Bang. The 2 ninjutsu collided in the air and directly annihilated both. The water vapor spread out in the sky, enveloping the entire venue. Snap. Natsuki landed on the ground, his face showing a defensive color. At this time, snap. The sound of applause sounded, and Kakashi's figure appeared in front of Natsuki. Alright. The test is over, Natsuki-kun. Hearing Kakashi's words, Natsuki was stunned for a moment. Is that alright? This was a test, and Natsuki could be sure that the 3 generations of Hokage must be holding his voyeur artifact and were watching everything here. Kakashi smiled and nodded. It's just to test Natsuki-kun's strength. It's not a real battle. Natsuki-kun cleared the test, and this is fine. Hearing this, Natsuki nodded clearly. I see. While speaking, retracting the knife and sheathing it, Natsuki looked at Kakashi with a strange look in his eyes. There is a feeling of unfulfilled meaning. It always felt like Kakashi's fight stopped when he couldn't get up or down, and there was always a feeling that he was deliberately slandering him. Although he was dissatisfied in his heart, Natsuki couldn't help it. Swish. At this moment, the figure of Yu Shiyan appeared beside the two. After glancing at Natsuki, Yuki Yuyan bowed to Kakashi and thanked him. Kakashi-senpai, it's really troublesome for you. Hearing Yuki Yu's words, Kakashi squinted and smiled. Well, it doesn't matter, the battle with Natsuki-kun is quite interesting. Well, see you next time, Natsuki-kun. Natsuki nodded and said, thanks for the advice. Swish. Nodding, Kakashi's figure disappeared directly. Seeing that Kakashi left, Yuzuki Shiyan looked at Natsuki and spoke. Xiaomu-kun, I'm here today. Do you want to go eat something together? I treat you. Hearing Yu Shiyan's words, Xiaomu shook his head and said, nope. I still have things. Forget it today. After I make money, I'll invite Captain Yuzuki to eat barbecue. Yu Shiyan nodded and said, okay. Natsuki-kun, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, gather there in the Hokage building for the first mission. Natsuki nodded and said, I see so. Swish. As soon as his figure moved, Xiaomu directly left the number 3 training ground in an instant. After Xiaomu left, Yu Shiyan's figure flashed, and he also left here. The figure moved quickly on the houses in the village, leaving the afterimage of the road towards the ninja school. I made an appointment with Hinata and went back to find Hinata. If you are a person in one class, you will have a lot of freedom of movement. With a smile on his face, Natsuki spoke. He just loves the feeling, because no matter what you do, it's clean. In this way, with his strength, he can complete many tasks most quickly, and then have more time to spend with his mother and Hinata. And he can also earn more money and accumulate his reputation faster. Soon, Natsuki, who came to the school, easily found Hinata there with the help of the ability of white eyes. On the rooftop of the school, Natsuki found a place to sit quietly, waiting for his Hinata. Call. In a breeze, Natsuki appeared in front of Hinata. Long wait, Hinata. Seeing Natsuki's sudden appearance, Hinata's face showed a color of joy. Natsuki-kun. Reaching out and pinching Hinata's face, Natsuki sat directly next to Hinata and took the initiative to speak. Hinata, my placement is decided. Looking at Natsuki, Hinata's face showed a look of worry and inquiry. Grabbing Hinata's little hand and playing with it, looking at her red little face, Natsuki spoke. I exist alone as a special class, and there is a guide to the Shinobu and I team up to complete the mission. And after accumulating experience, I will probably be able to become a shinobi, and then soon I will be able to become a shinobi. Looking at Hinata with bright eyes, Natsuki said very seriously, at that time I will take the initiative to go to your house and meet your father and mother. Hearing this, Hinata blushed and nodded. Episode 25. After chatting with Hinata about herself, Natsuki also asked about her class. Not much different from what Natsuki remembered. The members of the 8th class are Inazukaya, Shino the Oil Girl, and Hinata. And the guidance of Kami Shinobu is the Sunset Red who became Shang Shinobu not long ago. To be honest, the strength of Sunset Red is not very strong. But the 8th class is considered a perception class, and with the chakra perception technique that is still good at Sunset Red, it is reasonable to take this class. In addition, Sunset Red's illusion ability is indeed strong. Protecting Hinata is not a problem. Natsuki doesn't have to worry too much about Hinata's safety, and in terms of her own strength, Hinata's strength is also quite not weak. After Natsuki has worked hard for 6 years to change some of her personality, Hinata's strength, reaching the middle tolerance, should not be a problem. Such a class is actually not bad. After all, the 8th class is not like the 7th class. From time to time it encounters a super difficult task, facing either the elite Shainin, or all kinds of shadow-level bigwigs. Don't you see, even Kakashi, a Konoha technician, kneels from time to time when dealing with those battles? Although it is said to be 5 or 5, after the battle, Kakashi kneels a lot more. On the first day after graduation, Natsuki and Hinata dated for a whole day. Happy very much. Hokage office. Kakashi stood at the desk of the 3 generations of Hokage. How? Kakashi, smoking a cigarette, the 3 generations of Hokage looked at Kakashi and asked, friend, how do you feel about the strength of this child? Hearing the words of the 3 generations of Hokage, Kakashi's face revealed a serious color. Shang Shinobu. There is no doubt that he is a combat power of the upper ninja level, and most importantly, his combat intuition is quite excellent. Suddenly thinking of Natsuki's unhesitating desire to bombard his shadow doppelganger with him, Kakashi added, and this kid is determined and quite decisive. Everything that the shadow doppelganger suffers will be fed back into the body. He blew himself up abruptly, and the feeling of his body tearing apart violently, thanks to Natsuki, Kakashi also tasted it. Even he, a battle-hardened veteran, couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth, but Xiaomu's face remained unchanged. It can be seen that Natsuki's heart is firm. Nodding, the 3 generations of Hokage spoke. Friend, this child, I have been observing him for 6 years. He has his own will of fire, and there is also jade that he wants to protect Kakashi. I saw in him the possibility of 4 generations. Kakashi's gaze froze and looked at the 3 generations of Hokage. Teacher, the 3rd generation of Hokage bowed his head and spoke. If you have time, you may as well casually point out your friends and help him grow up quickly. Hearing the words of the 3 generations of Hokage, Kakashi nodded in a deep voice. I see. The next day, early in the morning, under his mother's comforting gaze, Natsuki left the house and quickly walked towards the Hokage building. Last night, after returning, Natsuki had already told his mother about the shift. Natsuki never hid anything from his mother except for things involving his identity as a traverser and system. The agreed meeting time was 9 o'clock in the morning, and when Natsuki arrived, it was still 5 minutes before the meeting time. The ninja profession is still very strict in controlling time. If Natsuki was a senior, it is estimated that he would not have come early. 5 minutes later, swish, Yu Shiyan's figure appeared in front of Xiaomu. Long wait, Natsuki-kun. Shaking his head, Natsuki looked at Yu Shiyan. I've just arrived, and since the captain has arrived, what's next? With a slight expectation in his eyes, Natsuki didn't feel much about performing tasks, but he had a lot of ideas about making money. Nodding, Yu Shiyan spoke. Claim the mission next, and start your first mission. Almost after you are familiar with the task process and accumulate a certain amount of task experience, you are alone to perform the task. Nodding, Natsuki said that he had no opinion on this. The first task is quite simple. D-level tasks. Any newcomer will perform a D-class mission from the beginning, unless it is a time of war. D-level tasks are generally issued by villagers in the village, such as taking children, weeding, cleaning up garbage, and so on. With the speed at which Natsuki completes tasks, completing more than 3 D-level tasks in one day is no problem. Grade C may be out of the village, and upwards will inevitably leave the village to execute. From receiving 3 tasks that did not take time in the morning, Natsuki had quickly completed these 3 tasks by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Familiarize yourself with the process of handing over tasks on one side. In the end, D-level tasks are generally done by Shinobi, or handed over to newcomers to familiarize themselves with ninja life, or in the hands of Shinobu, get a certain amount of teaching. This kind of task is still very simple. After completing 3 D-level missions, Natsuki received his first ninja reward. At the door of the Hokage building, Natsuki looked at the banknote in his hand. Is this the first task reward? Quite a lot. Seeing Xiaomu like this, Yu Shiyan smiled and spoke. Then Xiaomu-juan, tomorrow, you prepare well. Tomorrow, I will take you to do a C-level mission. Generally leave the village for a day or 2, and be ready to enlighten. Natsuki's face showed a clear color. I know. The progress of his mission is like flying on a plane. Generally speaking, a shinobi class needs to run in D-level tasks for a month before performing C-level tasks. It will be like him, and the day after becoming a ninja, he will go on a C-level mission. It's just that this kind of efficient speed makes Natsuki still very satisfied. After all, his foundation is extremely solid. Performing D-level tasks, there is some waste of time. After saying goodbye to Yu Shiyan, Xiaomu rushed directly to the 3rd training ground. The test battle of the 8th squad was also in the 3rd training ground. At this moment, it is estimated that the test of the 8th class, the bell-grabbing battle has ended. Just in time to see Hinata. It didn't take long for Natsuki to see the oncoming beauty Kami Shinobu, who was quite mature in appearance, and Sunset Red appeared on the street with Hinata and the 3, walking towards the direction of the shopping street. It looks like it's time to go to dinner. Xiaomu saw the 8th class, and the other party naturally saw Xiaomu. Sunset Hong directly took Hinata and the 3 of them and came to Natsuki. Huh? Isn't this Natsuki Yurin-kun? Coming to Hinata? Hearing Sunset Hong's words, Natsuki nodded. Teacher Hong, hello. This red teacher, of course, was called with Hinata. After all, even Kakashi, Natsuki didn't call him a teacher. The ninja world attaches great importance to the relationship between teachers and students. Looking at Natsuki, Sunset Hong simply noticed that Hinata's attention at the moment was all on Natsuki's body. As a relatively gentle woman, although today is a gathering of the 8th class, the relationship between Natsuki, a junior who is highly valued by the 3 generations of Hokage, and the 8th class is obviously also very close. So, Sunset Red looked at Natsuki. Xiaomu-kun, do you want to go eat a barbecue together? I treat you. Because her mother worked too hard, Natsuki never refused this kind of invitation. With a smile and a glance at Sunset Hong, Natsuki nodded directly. Then I will be respectful and obey. Episode 26. Among the rotisserie. While eating, Natsuki told Hinata about his departure from the village tomorrow to go on a mission. Huh? Hinata looked at Natsuki with a surprised look and asked, has Xiaomu-kun been able to take on advanced tasks? As a student from the elite class, except for Naruto Uzumaki, everyone else understands the ninja mission system. That's why Hinata was surprised. Natsuki nodded. Well, it's already okay. Today I completed 3 D-level tasks, familiarized myself with the process of task handover, and guided Shangnan to take me on C-level tasks tomorrow. That's all. Hearing Natsuki's words, Sunset Hong didn't have any reaction. As a guide to Shinobu, she probably knows something. It's just that the 2 guys, Inuzuka and Shino the oil girl, looked at Natsuki with a sour face. Friend, you are really lucky. You can take the task since then. We were taught a good lesson today. Yes. Especially Inuzuka, yeah. This guy has a feeling of contempt for female ninjas, and naturally he was cleaned up by Sunset Red. It's not miserable. In addition to Hinata, who is also a girl and has excellent strength and quality, Hinata is playing with worms and playing the mysterious oil girl Shino has been well practiced once by Sunset Red, and the situation in the 8th class is not very good. It's just that compared to the 7th class, the 8th class is a pediatric child. Sunset Red, who had been drinking a few drinks next to him, did not speak, just smiled and watched all this, and heard Inuzuka's words, and Red Eyes looked at him. Yeah, Shino, do you two have any dissatisfaction with the teacher and me? Yikes. Inuzuka and Shino the oil girl shook their heads in unison, can't afford to mess with it. Glancing at the two of them, a smile appeared on Xiaomu's face. It seems that it is not lightly rectified. After chatting for a long time, Xiaomu's attention fell on Sunset Hong. Teacher Hong, Hinata's words, please take care of you. Putting down the wine glass in his hand, Sunset Hong looked at Natsuki and smiled. They are my disciples, of course I will take care of them. Nodding, Natsuki was relieved, turned his head and continued to talk to Hinata, not caring too much about the atmosphere or anything. It seems that under the influence of Natsuki, when his circle of friends gathers together, how comfortable and how to get along. There is no deliberate pandering, no deliberate alienation. This feeling is still very good. Looking at Natsuki and Hinata, a smile appeared on Sunset's red face. What a youth. In the evening, I returned home. After some training, Natsuki sat down in the small courtyard of his house. System, fuse the cards I picked up today. Although I didn't go to the training ground specifically to pick up cards, it was just that Xiaomu's harvest this day was not a lot at all. After becoming a ninja, his circle began to develop towards the ninja class. Cyan cards, which were rare a few years ago, can now be picked up from time to time. What is really difficult to pick up is the golden card. It's just that Xiaomu can basically determine that the golden card is definitely a type of blood succession limit, so that it can reach this level. As for the orange card, that's a miracle. If miracles are so easy to happen, they are not called miracles. Fusion complete. The sound of the system fell, a feeling that had long been familiar, and disappeared from Natsuki's body at the same time. The illusion tree binding that broke out from Teacher Hong can also be regarded as a small compliment to make up for my weakness in illusion deficiency. Natsuki spoke, his face showing a thoughtful color. Today I picked up several cyan ninja bodies and chakra cards, as well as 2 purple cards. One is the illusion tree binding killing on Sunset Red's body, and the other is the purple knife art card obtained on Yushien's body. All very good. Now he is already the strength at the elite ninja level. I don't know to what extent to accumulate to be able to be regarded as a shadow level powerhouse, but now he pays attention to accumulation. One day, he will definitely become a shadow level powerhouse. Moreover, to put it in his heart, his current foundation is not too bad, actually. Whirlpool, immortal human body, white-eye blood succession limit. These two have opened up the distance between a large part of the ninjas. The most pity is that he brushed for 6 years. Inter chakra, Azura chakra, 9 tails. Not a single one burst out. Don't say it's this, even the chakra eye has not burst out. I have to say that the drop probability of this good thing is really too low, even if his strength is already very strong now. But the drop probability of the gold card and the orange card is not the same at all. Friend, it's time to rest. The mother's voice came from inside the living room. Hearing his mother's words, Natsuki turned around and answered, yes, come right away. Standing up, walking back to the house, seeing his mother sorting out the clothes he will wear tomorrow, he couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. Mom, aren't you resting yet? Sitting in front of his mother, Natsuki respected his mother very much in his heart. There is a good saying, even if you are 80 years old, in the eyes of your parents, you are still a child. So no matter how powerful Xiaomu is now, in front of his mother, he is just a son. Can your power be used to suppress your parents? No. Especially your parents, who are very conscientious, love you wholeheartedly, and do their best for you. Natsuki's previous life was an ordinary orphan, so for your mother, the respect in his heart, you can't imagine. Hearing Natsuki's words, her mother's face was filled with a gentle smile. It's still early, although I have friends to protect me now, but my mother still wants to help you do something. Hearing this, Natsuki nodded and spoke. Please mother, please pay attention to your body. Because it is a single-parent family, the mother's appearance looks older than that of wives of the same age. The years will not spare anyone, and will always engrave marks on his body or heart. I will. Hearing Natsuki's words, her mother smiled and nodded. Then again, friend, when will you bring Hinata-chan home? This question made Xiaomu's face stiffen slightly, and he said with some embarrassment. The words of this next time. Putting down the things in her hand, the mother looked at Natsuki with a serious face. Natsuki friend Kuan, mom and I like Hinata-chan very much. Do you understand what I mean? Stiff, Xiaomu said with cold sweat on his face. Yes. I understand. At this moment, Natsuki recalled, fear dominated by the majesty of the mother. Episode 27. Inside the bedroom, lying on the bed helplessly, Natsuki sighed and said, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law have a bad relationship? In my place, I'm afraid it doesn't exist anymore, and my mother seems to really like Hinata. Although the two have not yet met, the mother did not hesitate to speak to him in such a serious tone for Hinata's sake, which is enough to prove that the mother is super satisfied with Hinata. Let's hope everything goes well. Natsuki nestled under the quilt and closed his eyes. Although the Hyuga clan has invested a certain amount in him, it seems that marrying Hinata seems to have been Hinata's acquiescence. But who can say for sure in the future? What if something happened and the Hyuga clan refused to marry Hinata to him? Isn't that what happened? So Natsuki still needs strength. So strong that the entire Hyuga clan not only does not feel that there is anything wrong with marrying Hinata to him, but also feels that there is something wrong with EI. Then everything will be fine. Everything, or look at the fist to speak. The next day, early in the morning, Natsuki dressed neatly, took all the things his mother had prepared for him, and went straight out the door. The things prepared by the mother, very complete. Ninja tools such as shurikens, kunai, and detonation charms, as well as things like Orochimaru, even more complete than what Natsuki prepared himself. Come to think of it, there's nothing strange about that. After all, every time his father went out on a mission, his mother helped him prepare these things. After finding Yuyen Uzuki in the Hokage building and following her to take on a sea-level mission to eliminate the mountain thief, the two headed towards the gate of Konoha. However, this time, there was no hurry. Friend, Yu Shiyen walked in front, carrying a tie knife behind him, and spoke. This is your first time leaving the village, right? After yesterday's contact, the friendship between Yu Shiyen and Xiaomu has increased a little, and they naturally call him a friend. Hearing Yu Shiyen's words, Xiaomu smiled and said, if I could, I wouldn't want to leave the village. Some glanced at Natsuki in surprise, and Yu Shiyen spoke. Why? Friend, shouldn't everyone at your age want to go out to the world outside the village to carry out tasks? Xiaomu glanced at Yu Shiyen and spoke. My mother is still here, and Hinata and I'm childhood sweethearts. We must marry her in the future. Is it okay to live such a peaceful life and be quieter? It's nice to stay in the village. Nodding her head clearly, Yu Shiyen said with a smile. My friend's little girlfriend is really happy. Natsuki nodded proudly. Only this, he will never deny it. As the person who gave Hinata happiness, denying the fact that Hinata is happy, isn't this denying his qualifications to stay with Hinata? Contradictory things, Natsuki will not do. While chatting about tea honor, the two soon arrived at the gate of the village. When Natsuki saw Hinata standing at the gate of the village with a medical kit in his hand, his heart suddenly softened. Directly leaving Uzuki Shien, Natsuki came straight to Hinata. Hinata. Hearing Natsuki's voice, Hinata raised her head and looked at Natsuki. Natsuki-kun, good morning. Looking at Hinata with some distress and some faint dew on her head, Natsuki knew that she had come over early. You know, the departure time set by Yu Shiyen and Xiaomu is quite early. Reaching out and rubbing Hinata's little head, Natsuki asked, you came over early in the morning? Nodding gently, Hinata spoke. This is our family's special medicine and is useful for any trauma. Natsuki-kun, you take it. Reaching out to take the medical bag handed over by Hinata, Natsuki did not refuse, but the next moment, he raised his hand. Syllable. It hit Hinata's head lightly and heavily, and Natsuki's face showed a serious color. Hinata, only this time. Hearing Natsuki's words, Hinata rubbed his little head and said with a red face, well, I see. Natsuki's serious tone fell into Hinata's heart, but it was warm, because it's caring. In fact, she didn't have to give the medical bag to Natsuki at this time, but last night, when she went to Natsuki's house with something. Halfway there, Hinata went back in ashes, because she didn't have the courage to face Natsuki's mother. That's why I chose this time to come. I'm happy. After gently hugging Hinata, Natsuki spoke. Wait for me, in a day at most, I will come back, and tomorrow I will go to you. Hinata blushed and hugged Natsuki and nodded. Well, Natsuki-kun, be careful. Letting go of Hinata, Natsuki smiled confidently. Don't worry, your man, very powerful. After that, Natsuki walked directly towards the entrance of the village. When he walked in front of Yu Shiyen, Xiaomu spoke. Captain Yu, let's go. Swish. When the words fell, Xiaomu's figure had left quickly in an instant. Yu Shiyen glanced at Hinata, whose eyes were all Natsuki, shook his head and smiled, and instantly followed. In the forest, two figures are constantly moving on top of the big trees. Yu Shiyen looked at Xiaomu, who was extremely fast in front of him, and spoke. Friend, you seem to be in a hurry. Hearing Yu Shiyen's words, Xiaomu smiled and said. Of course I'm in a hurry. Brows frowned, Yu Shiyen looked puzzled. But when you haven't left the village yet, you're not in a hurry at all. Xiaomu glanced at Yu Shiyen and said of course. Because I like it, I want to leave slowly, because I like it, so now I want to finish the task quickly and go back early. This is a half-truth. There is only one real reason. Because he promised Hinata that he would go to her tomorrow. A man, you can be dashing when you leave, but when you come back, you must be numb. The last point is, if you promise, you must do it. Natsuki's gaze had a cold light. Whoever blocks my return to the village, there is no mercy for killing. Hearing Xiaomu's murderous words, a smile appeared on Yu Shiyen's face. In fact, as Natsuki's guide, it is impossible to be without some small tasks. For example, check Natsuki's heart, his opinion of the village, the will of fire, the jade in his heart, or something. There are some seemingly unimportant questions, but they are actually a temptation. I have to say that those who are close to politics have quite dirty hearts, but Natsuki's performance is very good. Not to mention it before, just Xiaomu's last sentence, Yu Shiyen is enough. Subconsciously, Yu Shiyen's heart began to raise some respect for Xiaomu. As a dark part directly belonging to the three generations of Hokage, Yu Shiyen has some things that he still understands. Natsuki, most likely it will be Hokage of the future. Episode 28. At night, a cottage stands on a hilltop, and the light of a campfire flickers inside. A full moon in the sky, which seemed to have a hint of scarlet on it. This night, it is not destined to be stable. Yikes. Two breaking winds sounded, and the figures of Xiaomu and Yu Xian appeared on a tree. Glancing at this cottage, Yu Xian turned her head to face Xiaomu. Friend, what are you going to do? When Xiaomu heard this, he looked at Yu Xian. Give me 10 minutes. Swish. The moment the words fell, Xiaomu's figure had already left. Yu Xian was stunned for a moment, but the next moment, he also followed out. This task is to eliminate the thieves. For the two of them, there is naturally no need to keep their hands, annihilating all the bandits in this cottage. It's just that this task is more about letting Natsuki see blood and adapt to killing. So unless it is necessary moment, Yu Xian will not make a move. In front of the cottage, there are thieves vigil. Swish. A figure flashed, and the 5 mountain thieves who were keeping vigil had not yet reflected. Zhing. A silver sword light in the moonlight directly slashed through the necks of these 5 mountain thieves. Blood splattered. Xiaomu's eyes faintly carried a trace of scarlet. After killing these 5 people, without the slightest hesitation, his figure was like a flexible tanuki, turning over the gate of this cottage. Kill, bloom in this dark night. 6 minutes later, Xiaomu's figure walked out of the gate of the cottage. The clothes on his body were not stained with a drop of blood, as if he had gone in and walked around and did nothing. Walking under a tree, Natsuki supported the trunk with one hand, and the whole person forcibly calmed himself down. It's just that his stomach is tumbling uncomfortable, making his face slightly pale. The first killing is a copycat. Uncomfortable. Imagine Natsuki's previous stable life, and know that this will indeed make him extremely uncomfortable. Even if he was fully prepared, when he watched it in his previous life, he felt that the death of the villain did not matter. After all, it was a paper person. But now it's not the same for yourself. A few minutes later, Yu Xian went to check around the cottage and came to Xiaomu's side. Mission accomplished. What do you think? Want a break? For such a short time, although there was still some discomfort, the determined Natsuki still got out of the uncomfortable feeling that was almost suffocating. Hearing Yu Xian's words, Natsuki shook his head. No need, go back. The gaze is firm, but if he wants to have the most peak strength in the ninja world, how can he be frightened by dozens of lives? If you want to do it, be the ninja who makes the entire ninja world tremble. Thousands of troops avoid Natsuki. That's the romance of men. Morning time. In front of Konoha's gate, Natsuki and Uzumaki Shien registered and returned to the village. Finally back, Natsuki said with emotion, with a hint of nostalgia on his face. It's like a world away. Although he only went out for 1 day and 1 night, the growth he gained in this day and night was unimaginable. He has already seen blood. This is a metamorphosis of the mind that cannot be seen from the outside. Let's go. Yu Xian smiled and spoke. After going to hand over the mission, you go home and rest, and then next, you do a sea-level mission for a period of time to adapt to the life of a ninja first. Hearing Yu Xian's words, Natsuki nodded. I see. Soon, after handing over the task in the Hokage building and getting his own task reward, Natsuki went home. Yu Xian naturally went to find the 3 generations of Hokage and reported the details of this mission. Of course, this must include some observations of Natsuki. There's nothing wrong with that. Walking on the road, Natsuki glanced at his wallet with satisfaction. Good harvest. Of course, the remuneration for C-level tasks is not as good as the honorariums of B-level tasks, but it is also much higher than that of D-level tasks. Although it is a remuneration for 2 people, the remuneration in Xiaomu's hands is really a lot. It doesn't need much, you only need to do D-level tasks a few times a month, plus 1 C-level task, which is completely enough for the good life of the Xiaomu family. So, if you are a ninja, making money is still quite simple. Natsuki's house. Pushing open the door and sitting in Xuanguang to change his shoes, Natsuki opened his mouth and shouted inside. I'm back. The figure of the mother walked out of the living room and came to Natsuki's side. Welcome back, friend. Want to eat something? Hearing his mother's words, Natsuki shook his head and said, I want a bath. Hearing this, the mother nodded. Mommy help you prepare bath water and clothes, you wait a while. Hearing his mother's gentle words, Xiaomu's heart warmed. There is no doubt that the mother guessed what was going on with her. It's so gentle, my lord. It didn't take long for Natsuki to take a bath. The warm water makes Natsuki's heart relax for a while. Faintly, Xiaomu could feel his chakra, much more. Chakra is a combination of physical energy and spiritual energy, so spiritual breakthroughs can also affect the amount of chakra. System, open my properties panel. Natsuki said to the system in his heart. Shoo. Host properties panel. Name, Natsuki Urine. Chakra, 1349. Ninjutsu, 523. Physical skills, 565. Illusion, 371. Blood succession limit. White eyes. Vortex immortal human body. Comprehensive strength assessment. Elite upper patience. The 3-dimensional data has a small increase, which is not very obvious, but it also proves that Natsuki is indeed getting stronger. Not bad. Nodding in satisfaction, Natsuki closed his eyes and took a good bath. It was noon. With a bento in hand, Natsuki left the house. He probably knew where the initial basic cultivation would be carried out after the 8th class carried out its tasks. After returning home in the morning, taking a bath and taking a little rest, Natsuki went out around noon with the bento box that his mother had prepared for Hinata. I made an appointment with Hinata today. Soon, Natsuki came to the number 3 training ground, without the slightest surprise. From the perspective of white eyes, Natsuki easily found Hinata. As for Sunset Red and Inuzuka and Shino the oil girl, they were just seen with them. Not long after walking into the third training ground, from a distance, Xiaomu saw the 8th class. Xiaomu arrived brightly, and as a few people from the 8th class of the perception class, it was naturally impossible not to find out. Yo? Seeing Natsuki, a smile appeared on Sunset Red's face. Natsuki-kun completed the task so quickly? Nodding, Natsuki was wearing casual clothes. Done, didn't bother you, did you? Teacher Hong. Sunset Hong smiled and spoke. Don't bother, we're almost over. For Natsuki, the good impression of Sunset Red is still there. There are not many such excellent teenagers. Episode 29. Next to a creek at the training ground, Hinata sits on the ground with her back against a large tree. Above her thighs, Natsuki's head was resting there, her eyes closed, and she was sleeping soundly. Looking at Natsuki's sleeping face, Hinata was satisfied. The gentleness in a pair of eyes seems to overflow. The more she looks at Xiaomu, the sweeter her heart becomes. And what kind of metaphor like eating honey can't describe her mood at the moment? All in all, being able to meet Natsuki is Hinata's greatest happiness. Hard work. In his heart, Hinata said softly to Natsuki, Natsuki-kun. After meeting with the Sunset Red and them just now, when the 8th class was disbanded, Natsuki came here with Hinata. After shyly finishing the lunch her mother had prepared for her, Natsuki told her about last night's task. During this process, Hinata keenly felt that Natsuki was mentally exhausted. So after Natsuki finished speaking, she took the initiative to give Natsuki a knee pillow. Until now, Natsuki has not woken up. Looking at Natsuki, Hinata had a smile on her face, looked at the tree, and slowly fell asleep. Don't worry about any danger. After all, the strength of the two is not a joke, especially the state of Xiaomu. It is obviously mentally tense, and if there is a little danger, he can wake up quickly. Time passed little by little. After a long time, Natsuki woke up from sleep. When he opened his eyes, he saw Hinata with a quiet sleeping face. Shine in front of your eyes. Sitting up gently, Natsuki looked at Hinata's sleeping face, although he had seen it many times, but this little face, no matter how good, could not see enough. The more he looked, the more fascinated he was. To put it bluntly, Hinata's appearance is actually not the peak. It's just that her personality is really too pleasant. To put it in a pampered and proud way, with Hinata's love for him now, I am afraid that if Natsuki goes out to drink flower wine or something, Hinata will be able to say things like come back early, and there is no need to doubt this. But Natsuki still won't be slagged to that extent. I don't know why, looking at Hinata's sleeping face, Natsuki's heartbeat accelerated faintly. After a while, Natsuki lowered his head and gently kissed Hinata Sakura on the lips. Thank you, Hinata. It's just that after the kiss, he realized that something was wrong. Hinata's little face quickly became rosy. Not only that, but smoke began to appear above her head. Pretend to sleep. Without noticing for a while, he was deceived by Hinata, a little Nico. Looking at Hinata like this, Natsuki's face showed a bad smile face. Raising his hand to pick Hinata's chin and looking at her already somewhat dizzy eyes, Natsuki spoke. Hinata is not allowed to faint, otherwise, I will be angry. Swish. Instantly sobered up, Hinata's eyes watered. Wang looked at Natsuki. Natsuki-kun It's just that Hinata's words are not finished. It was blocked by Natsuki again. In the evening, after sending Hinata back to Hinata's house, Natsuki walked towards his house. Anyway, today's harvest is still very good. Earned Hinata's kiss, and that's great. With a satisfied mood, Natsuki went straight back to his home. The mother did not have the slightest dissatisfaction with the fact that her son went to Hinata for a date. On the contrary, she felt very good. On this day, Natsuki still had a full life. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. In the past 3 days, Natsuki did not do the task, and he was recovering his mental state. Taking advantage of this time, he had a good relationship with the 8th class. Of course, it's more about having a good relationship with the guidance of Sunset Red. After all, his future wife works under people. Thanks to the generosity of the Sunset Red, in the past 3 days, Xiaomu has been fighting with the 8th class non-stop. Then, the instructor Shinobu Rihong pointed out the shortcomings of the 8th class, and at the same time taught some illusion skills to Natsuki, so that his illusion level rose by more than 1 level. In general, the guidance of Sunset Red is enduring, and the heart is still very good. After 3 pleasant days, Natsuki's mental state had recovered, and it was natural to start the mission. Hokage building. Natsuki walked into the office where he received the task alone. As soon as he entered, Natsuki saw the 3 generations of Hokage on his desk, distributing tasks. Seeing Natsuki come in, a smile appeared on the face of the 3 generations of Hokage. Oh? Friend, have you come to pick up the task? Hearing this, Natsuki nodded and said, yes, Naruto-sama, take on a sea-level mission. Hearing Natsuki's words, the 3 generations of Hokage were not surprised, and directly chose a sea-level task and handed it to Natsuki. With a smile on his face, the 3 generations of Hokage spoke. When doing tasks, pay attention to safety. Natsuki nodded confidently. Don't worry, Lord Naruto. After speaking, Natsuki directly turned around and left the office. Looking at Natsuki's back, the 3 generations of Hokage remembered Yu Shien's report, and couldn't help but be more satisfied with Natsuki. Sea-level tasks, not difficult to do. Xiaomu selected some tasks that did not consume time, so the speed of his tasks was very fast. In just over 20 days, Xiaomu completed 10 sea-level tasks. Almost every 2 days, complete a sea-level mission. extremely efficient and 100% complete. For a month, Natsuki was in Konoha, mixing up some small reputations. After all, as a new graduate, it is impossible to have such speed without attracting attention. During this period, Natsuki also rested for several days. Genius, always eye-catching. Of course, in this case, it is inevitable that the time that Natsuki and Hinata spend together is greatly compressed. It's just that I still maintain the frequency of dating once in 3 days at most. Natsuki's attention and affection for Hinata, even Sunset Hong, who is already an adult, can't help but blush. It's really a pampered rhythm. As long as it is a mission to leave the land of fire, Natsuki is always able to bring back some small gifts for Hinata. This young man, damn youth, damn romance. The quiet days passed like this for a month. On this day, after meeting Hinata in the morning, Natsuki came to the assignment handover of the Hokage building. He rested for another 3 days, and it was time to go and do another mission. Make hay, make a lot of money, and marry your wife. The recent sea-level tasks were all done by him alone, and the honorarium was good, and he also bought a lot of things for the family. Of course, there are some mothers who are not allowed to be replaced. That's memories. As soon as he walked into the big office where the task was received, Natsuki saw the familiar 4 figures. 7th shift. Episode 30. Accidentally. Very unexpected. You know, since the graduation examination, Natsuki has not seen Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha, and these two still carry what he wants, and it is naturally unexpected to encounter them at this moment. When I saw the 7th shift, they were taking a D-level task. It's just that at this moment, Xiaomu's attention is not on what task they have taken. In his ears, the sound of the system just sounded. Shoo. Orange card drops have been detected within 100 meters of the host. Is it picked up? What is the sound of nature? And here it is. What is Ohuang color? And here it is. Natsuki's heart has been firmly occupied by the orange miracle light. Pick. On the surface, he was silent, but Xiaomu's heart was so excited that he couldn't help himself, and directly chose to pick it up. Nonsense, it's been so many years that an orange miracle card has come out. Isn't it foolish to let it go? Successfully picked up, obtained the orange Indra Chakra card, which has been stored. This orange card, which appeared next to Sasuke Uchiha, was Indra Chakra, which was also expected by Natsuki. After putting away the card, a fine light flashed in Xiaomu's eyes. Finally got the chakra, a direct member of the Atsuki clan, which means that he has always been able to use only as an auxiliary white eye, and is about to evolve towards the reincarnation eye, which is a real peak level power. Can't help but feel that a stone in Xiaomu's heart is silently gone. After the 7th shift took over the task, Natsuki opened his mouth to say hello. Naruto, Sakura, and Uchiha-san, long time no see. There is no way. Uchiha Sasuke regarded Natsuki as an opponent for too long, resulting in a relationship between the two that was not so harmonious. Although Natsuki didn't feel anything, but Uchiha Sasuke treated him coldly. Although his temperament is more easygoing, Natsuki will not put a hot face on his cold ass. Hearing Xiaomu's greeting, the 4 people in the 7th class all turned their heads. Oh. Long time no see. Naruto Uzumaki reacted the most violently, and instantly came to Natsuki's side. Friend. This is his first friend, although Natsuki treats him as just a normal friend, but for Naruto Uzumaki, Natsuki is his best friend, there is no doubt about that. Looking at Naruto Uzumaki, Natsuki nodded. Judging by the way you look, you have a good job adapting to ninjas. Scratching his head, Naruto Uzumaki laughed. Isn't that of course? I'm going to be Hokage. Hearing this, Natsuki smiled, and his gaze fell on Haruno Sakura and Uchiha Sasuke. Haruno Sakura greeted Natsuki with a smile. After all, they were friends, while Uchiha Sasuke looked at him with a warlike expression. How much makes Natsuki helpless? This guapi Sasuke, who has been beaten for 6 years, is stunned that he did not burst a golden card, which is strange. After greeting the 3 of Naruto Uzumaki, Natsuki nodded at Kakashi and walked towards the 3rd generation of Hokage. Naruto-sama, I'm here to take the mission. Looking at the 3 generations of Hokage, Natsuki spoke. A sea-level mission. Hearing this, the 3 generations of Hokage, who had a kind smile on their faces, nodded. Yes, I just have a new sea-level mission here, and the others have already been picked up. You just came. Because of the speed at which Natsuki completes the task, the sea-level mission is sometimes not even enough. As he spoke, the 3 generations of Hokage had already handed the mission scroll to Natsuki. After getting the task, Natsuki said goodbye to the 3 members of the 7th class and left the office directly. Looking at Natsuki's departing figure, Naruto Uzumaki looked at it dumbfounded. My friend just picked up sea-level tasks? That's an advanced task that is inaccessible to new graduates. Why is his best friend so accepted? Kakashi-sensei, what's going on? Why can friends take on advanced tasks, but we cannot? Naruto Uzumaki's face was full of displeasure, and he opened his mouth to question Kakashi. Even Uchiha Sasuke looked at Kakashi with a puzzled expression, which he cared about. Kakashi, who was smiling, said with a smile, well, because Xiaomu has proven himself to be very strong and has the strength to perform high-level tasks alone, so he can. Hearing this, Naruto Uzumaki couldn't hold back and spoke. Yo West. I'm also going to prove myself. Kakashi-sensei, tell me how I can prove that I'm strong enough? Sasuke Uchiha pricked up his ears and listened carefully to Kakashi's answer. Haruno Sakura didn't care, after all, she was not so strong about becoming stronger. That's easy. Kakashi's face with a meaningful smile. As long as you can tie with me, there will be no problem. Jing. The 3 members of the 7th class instantly quieted down. At this moment, they would remember the fear of being dominated by Kakashi. Leaving the big office, Natsuki directly opened the scroll in his hand and checked the content of this mission. After a few glances, Xiaomu's eyes were slightly condensed. The land of waves, Dazna. The moment he saw the mission location and escorted the target, Natsuki's memory of this escort mission was restored. Putting the scroll away, Natsuki grinned. The land of waves? I'm afraid it will take 2 or 3 days to go. However, he is looking forward to it. The peachland is no longer cut, and the water is not white. These 2 characters are quite powerful, and during this period of sea-level missions, they have not encountered ninja battles, so that Natsuki's knife is a little hungry and thirsty. During this trip, I can meet a Shainin and a special Shainin. It's pretty good too. As for the fact that he robbed the task of the 7th class, Xiaomu didn't feel that there was anything wrong. He only wants to fight with Momochi again without slashing the Imperial City. Once you find Dazna, you can go. Putting away the task scroll, Natsuki spoke. Without much effort, he quickly found Dazna. Seeing that it was Natsuki who took his task, Dazna was still dissatisfied, but when he felt the momentum on Natsuki's body, he didn't dare to say anything more about Natsuki. After all, Dazna also lied about the mission level. Konoha Gate. After Natsuki showed the mission certificate, he was allowed to go, and Dazna left Konoha together. Little brother, you have to protect me. Because there was no reason to drink, Dazna was still very sober, looked at Natsuki, and opened his mouth to remind him thoughtfully. Glancing at this elderly uncle, Natsuki nodded and said, "Don't worry. I'm strong." Hearing Natsuki's words, Dazna nodded, and his heart was slightly relieved. I want to come to Konoha to let Natsuki do his task alone. It should also be because this handsome little brother in front of him really has skills.